Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. The heavyweight division is bubbling, percolating, not as much as the welterweight division, but it's moving. But there's one person in particular who I think is the biggest problem in the heavyweight division. He's just not getting his opportunities, but he's on the cusp of greatness. And I'm not talking about Wilder. I'm not talking about AJ. I'm not talking about Ruiz, White, Ortiz, Parker, Hrgovic, Sanchez, and Zhang. I'm talking about Joyce. That's the person who's going to cause problems for everybody if he doesn't, develop brain damage before he gets his shot at the big boys. Because Joyce has stamina, he has a chin, he has power. And when you come up in the boxing gyms or you've been around, you've done a lot of sparring, you've had to get yourself in shape, there's three things that I think if you have the perfect fighter, I think you have someone with power, speed, stamina. If they have those three qualities, hard to beat them. But if I had to just narrow it down to two things, which for me, probably the most important, I'd say speed and stamina. Power is important, don't get me wrong. I don't mean you got to be pillow-fisted. That pillow-fisted stuff's not going to work. But if you have speed and you have stamina, it'd be very tough for somebody to beat you who doesn't have stamina. You can have all the power in the world. If you can't land those shots, you're going to be in trouble. But if you have all three, then you're good to go. So when we take a look at what we have for the ring and how they rack and stack their guys, Usyk is the big dog. You got to give him that. He's got all those damn belts and the ring heavyweight champion belt as well. But when you look at Wilder as the number one, some people don't agree with that. They say Wilder's been inactive. How can they have him as far as the ring ranking, making him number one underneath Usyk? Then AJ, then Joyce. I'm not even going to say whether I agree or disagree with this. But I'll tell you right now, that Joyce is the problem. You got Andy Ruiz, Dillian White. Then you got Ortiz, Parker. Parker's been hanging. I don't know how Parker keeps holding on, but he keeps holding on. Hrgovic, Sanchez, and Zhang. Now, you see that Jaleel Zhang? He's a problem. I like Jaleel Zhang. I'm always going to root for that guy, man. To me, it wasn't a total robbery, but he did enough to win in that fight against Hrgovic. When you got a man just falling all over the damn ring like that, that should be like a 2-point round, in my opinion. I mean, Hrgovic was just out on his feet on numerous occasions. But it is what it is. So as far as the ring and their rack and stack with their 1 through 10, this is how they have it. Now, there have been questions about, hey, is Deontay Wilder the number one in the WBC? Is he the mandatory for the WBA? Where is Joshua in the rack and stack? What about, Ortiz and, Frank Sanchez? Because these guys are active and, they're in position for some big fights. But Luis Ortiz, I think he's kind of missed his opportunity. People just wouldn't fight him, and it's unfortunate. But Ortiz now, you can see I call him the old Cadillac. The old Cadillac is showing signs of wear and tear. Still a huge threat, but they just waited that man out till he got old, and now you can see that his punch resistance isn't quite there like it used to be, and he starts off a little bit slower, but still a threat and can beat anybody on any given day. So now we take a look at the WBO, the IBF, and the WBA. So let's take a look at the WBO and how they have their rack and stack. So, Usyk is the big dog. He's the WBO World Heavyweight Champion. Then Joyce is a WBO Interim World Heavyweight Champion. So, of course, Joyce wants to get in there with Usyk. When you look at let's just go on across. In the IBF, they have Alexander Usyk. He's the big dog. The WBC, Tyson Fury is the big dog. And then for the WBA, you have Usyk, and you got Daniel Dubois, okay? Now, Dubois wants to get in there and get a shot at Usyk for the WBA. So for those who are asking, who's really the mandatory, well, it's either going to be Daniel Dubois for the WBA or Michael Hunter. For the WBC, we already know Deontay Wilder and Ruiz are going to be fighting to figure that out. For the IBF, we already know Flip Hrgovic. He's there. There's no one in the number 2. Eddie Hearns already went. Filed a petition to get Flip Hrgovic in there to fight Usyk because Eddie Hearn doesn't have any marbles. He doesn't have any more marbles and shit in the heavyweight division. He doesn't have any more hardware, so he's miserable as hell trying to stop Fury and Usyk from going forward because Eddie Hearn wants to take his hand and stir it around that pot of gold, that heavyweight pot of gold. And then for the WBO, of course, you got Joyce. Now, once you get beyond some of these mandatories, you just start looking at the ranking stack. So, like, for the WBO, you got Andy Ruiz. Then you have Frank Sanchez, Otto Wallen, Flip Hrgovic, Anthony Joshua. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, man. And Andy Ruiz has moved up 3 positions. Frank Sanchez, as far as the WBO, he moved up 1. Otto Wallen moved up 2. Anthony Joshua's gone up 2, and Michael Hunter moved up 3. But I don't understand why I don't understand how they break all this down. Because you look at the WBO, they have Andy Ruiz as the number 1. In the IBF, Andy Ruiz is the number 3. The WBC, Andy Ruiz is number 2. And there for the WBA, Andy Ruiz, he's not even on there. So, you know, it still doesn't really make sense that not all these sanctioning bodies are using the same criteria. You know, it's kind of stupid if you ask me. But then you come back over to WBO, the number 2 there, Frank Sanchez. And let's just find where he falls. Frank Sanchez for the IBF is number 7. So you go the WBO, Frank Sanchez is number 2. The IBF, he's number 7. The WBC, he's number 3. And then he's not even listed when you talk about the WBA. See? Inconsistent. Otto Wallen is a huge threat. Anthony Joshua don't want any parts of him. That's why he didn't fight him in December. Otto Wallen is a problem. So you got Otto Wallen for the WBO ranked as number 3. Come over to the IBF. Otto Wallen's ranked number 11. WBC, Otto Wallen's ranked number 9. And the WBA, no Otto Wallen. Isn't that crazy? And then Flip Hrgovic, you know, he's making noise. So he's a WBO, the IBF, he's the mandatory. He's trying to get in there and get his shot. And Flip Hrgovic is all the way down to number 14 for the WBC. Now, I think they're getting that right because Flip Hrgovic, he can fight, but he ain't all that to me. He's not even ranked in the WBA. Now, what the hell do they have? My thing is for the WBO, where the hell is Deontay Wilder? See, they don't even have him on there. That's crazy. For the IBF, Deontay Wilder's number 5. WBC, he's number 1. And number 2 for the WBA. So for the WBA, we already know that Daniel Dubois is the mandatory to Usyk. But there's going to have to be a fight. There's going to have to be some kind of eliminator to actually get a shot at Usyk. So it's the way they do this shit is just really, really crazy. Because you would think it'd just be a matter of just having the number 1 go up here and fight, but they start having the number 1 and 2, or the 1 and 6, or whoever they pick. They have these guys get in there and fight for these mandatory positions. Then they may or may not get in the ring with the champion. And it's all about money, man. In case you guys didn't know, whenever there's 2 guys fighting for an interim, if they're fighting for any kind of title, doesn't matter. If it's a title they're fighting for, whether it's interim, intercontinental, whatever. If it's a belt they're fighting for, both individuals have to pay certain fees. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So this is where these sanctioning bodies really make their money. And that's why you'll see so many title eliminators and all this other crap, because both mandatories have to pay sanctioning fees. And then when they go and they fight the champion and the contender have to pay sanctioning fees. It's just crazy. Now the contender doesn't pay as much as the champion, but they pay. So it's really crazy, man. So when you look at this, in particular, somebody was asking me about the WBA. Let's just look at the WBA. Usyk, Dubois, Hunter, Wilder, Lunga, Joshua, Makhmudov, Pero, Trevor Bryan, Luis Ortiz, Kosobutsky, Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown ranked number 10. Caballel, Lorena, Goudry, Gerald Miller. Damn, they got Gerald Miller ranked. And Ivan Ditchko. Man, half of those names I never even heard of. And over here for the WBC. So let's take a look at the WBC because, you know, are they getting it right or are they doing the same thing? They got Fury, of course, Wilder, Ruiz, Frank Sanchez. Why don't they have Usyk ranked here? Maybe because he's a Ring Magazine champion? I don't know. Makhmudov, Joshua, Dillian White, Ilunga, they got the same name. Kosobutsky, Wallen, Parker, Ortiz, Hunter, Chisora, Hrgovic. Charles Martin over here for the IBF. So that's the rack and stack, man. And you can see there's some names here that we probably haven't heard of. But when you see the names that we really know about, the Jaleel James, the Joseph Parkers, Anthony Joshua, Hrgovic, Michael Hunter, man, there's really no activity from him. Some people still aren't familiar with who Otto Wallen is, but he got in there and gave Tyson Fury a run for his money. Frank Sanchez. So those are the common names. But really, as far as the focus, let me show you this. They dropped Joe Joyce from the WBO rankings. Isn't that crazy? How the hell would you drop Joe Joyce out? But what really matters is this right here. Let me move my big head out the way. This right here. This is what matters. And I'm not even sure if they got this correct, man. Joe Joyce, Ruiz. I don't know. But out of all these guys, I picked Joe Joyce. I think Joe Joyce can beat everybody here. I think he beats everybody. I think Joe Joyce can beat everybody. I'm just being honest with you. He's just a problem. But that's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. With that being said, man, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. Appreciate y'all support. All 7 continents, and I'm in the breeze.